Hi everyone, welcome again on our channel. I hope you're all doing well with your experience. And in today's video, I wanted to talk about the topic that it's sometimes overlooked, and this is communication. It's a communication with ourselves, but also I want to share how it impacts the communication with our counterparts and how it really influences our journey. Communication is a skill that will be needed to bring those high vibrational connections here on 3D. There are many layers to our soul experience here, especially I'm talking here about those soul connections that are highly energetic. And everything seems to be easy when we are working with the higher realms, when we are not really touching base with the 3D reality, when we are not really facing the fears that are buried deep in our subconscious. And in general, the experience gets more and more complicated, I would say, the moment you're really working towards bringing it into the 3D realm. And of course, we're getting a lot of help on the way. Once you created a field with your counterpart, it's gonna be helping you to navigate those tumultuous moments. But communication is the key to actually help yourself to get to these final steps. Communication is something that you're practicing. Either you're in separation from your counterpart, or even if you are together working through those issues. But it's gonna be coming on the very first plan. So if you find yourself in the stage that you're currently not talking, don't have any communication, that's okay. You can still take responsibility for your part of the journey. And I'm not saying here, do the work for both of you. It's more, you take accountability for your experience because you're ready to evolve without putting any expectations on external circumstances. So this is the first part, really. The inner communication is the first step for you to actually learn this inner dialogue, learn about your needs, learn to express, learn to speak up. Because again, it's very difficult to expect just natural flow between you two. It takes effort, and it really, the moment we are trying to navigate those multiple levels, so we are trying to put together an energetic layer, emotional layer, mental layer, when all of them are still getting cleared up, it can get messy. And the only way, of course, we cannot really expect the other person to know what happens from our side. We need to learn to communicate it properly. So you see, like, knowing yourself and being able to communicate first within your emotions and your mental state to know really what's going on inside, it's crucial, because you need to understand what's going on really with you. If you don't feel like you have this inner communication, inner dialogue developed yet, of course there are ways to improve that. I really love journaling exercises. If you don't have a habit of just writing your thoughts down, I highly recommend it to start with that. Of course, meditation can help as well. But just to experiment a little bit to get you on this first step of expressing your own thoughts, then you're gonna be diving even more deeper. You may be getting more access into what are your needs, what are your boundaries, what are your values. So this is very exploratory part of the experience, when we are getting to know ourselves better first, and then we can bring that to the connection. So as you may remember, those initial stages when you're just only connected through this third energy and you don't have to do much, it's very easy. It's very smooth. But at the same time, remember that this connection at that moment is in those very high planes, so you don't really do anything material. Everything happens automatically. Everything is orchestrated, it just flows. The more, maybe the lower we try to get, lower meaning more anchored in this 3D reality, it's gonna be getting more tricky in a way that it's gonna be requiring more self-responsibility, this self-accountability, to actually navigate through your emotional states and mental states and being able to express that externally to your partner. So you see that this is the cornerstone really to build these connections first within you, then to bring that into the connection further, to try to bring this as a 3D union as we speak. I'm talking here about this very putting emphasis on developing your own sense of boundaries, because as much as those connections are divine and they are beautiful and it's wonderful to experience them, they're gonna be highlighting unprocessed things in you. So if you don't have those boundaries in place, if you used to be people pleaser, if you didn't, maybe had the tendencies to get lost a little bit in a connection, if you don't have those boundaries in place, this is the perfect time to develop them. Soul connections are very rich in its nature, but also we may have tendencies to get engulfed a little bit too much, or maybe we'll not be able to say enough when things are getting heated up. So being more self-aware and self-conscious of where are those my boundaries, where is my sense of safety within the relationship, where does it get maybe too much for me, where I feel comfortable still within the connection. This is important to understand about yourself, and of course be able to share that with your partner, because we cannot expect that we're gonna be reading each other's minds. So assuming you've done this part of the exercise, you seem to know yourself a little bit better. Of course, you may be put into practice through very short-lived soul connections here and there. Don't expect always to be involved in this major twin flame dynamic. We need those connections sometimes to help us to grow a little bit more until we get to the certain vibrational state, and we can just take part in this twin flame dynamic again after separation, for instance. But once this part is done, you're gonna be hopefully practicing this communication skills with another person, with a counterpart within your twin flame energy. And if you've had experience of the previous connections that they seem to fail and they didn't work, maybe that was your fault, maybe that was counterpart's fault, maybe it was both of you, wrong time or lack of maturity, and you've accepted that was a very precious experience, but you're ready to expand even more, you're gonna have another shot with the person who is actually matching your level of maturity and level of understanding. So you see, the more you get to know yourself, the more aware partner is gonna be attracting to you. Like, we are mirroring our growth here. So it's very useful to focus on yourself and your evolution, because we know this is gonna be mirrored by our counterpart. It doesn't mean that if you're highly evolved, there will be no issues, because we all still have some leftover traumas, leftover patterns. Many of them are not even conscious. Many of them will be coming during those heated conversations that we have when we actually try to make it work, and there will be some dynamics being played out, only to bring those things to the surface and show you what are the attachments, or maybe what are the blocks that you still may have that prevent you to fully embrace your true self and your journey. So once you've developed yourself to the point that you are responsible for communicating what happens in your inner state, you may be finding ways to actually navigate better through those mental / emotional, even energetic turmoils. Because again, it's not like we don't need any of those negative experiences. Even in the most beautiful connection, when there is peace and there is respect, there will be moments that it's gonna be getting uncomfortable. There are moments that your mental capacity will be trying to trick you and put a lot of fears into the connection. There are moments that you're gonna be emotionally detached from your partner. And finally, you may even feel occasionally energetic disconnect. So all of those things are to be expected. As we grow, the moments of the biggest expansion happen when we are actually being separated for a bit, so we can actually understand our inner power and our individuality, because we are being constantly reminded that those soul connections are meant to be built from the two very evolved individuals who know their value and know what's right for them. And especially in those difficult moments, you're gonna be asked, do you still remember about yourself? Are you putting yourself and your self-worth, your self-love and well-being in the first place, trusting that the connection will survive? Those are the tests that are one of the most difficult, because you're gonna be facing yourself, your own shadow, and putting your priorities right. Really turning towards what's the most precious for you. And it's a very beautiful practice if you can get to that state that you're gonna be able to choose evolution, whatever the cost. Because the good thing is, from that standpoint, you know that the right connection will be able to evolve with you. And that's to the point that you may feel like you're on a fence, you're on a breaking point. You have no idea where it can go, but you choose to have faith that the right things will be happening to you for the right reasons. So I think I've mentioned in previous videos how choosing your inner truth is the also cornerstone of those connections. Anytime you will try to diminish yourself, your needs, maybe to hide something or not to speak up just because you don't want to create discomfort, if you're reaching the higher level of evolution, you will be sensing inauthenticity in others, but also in you. And you're gonna be having a very difficult time to lie to yourself. So naturally, uncomfortable moments will need to be spoke about. We're gonna be training ourselves to communicate better, even if it's difficult, even if we feel that we need to escape the connection because it's getting too much. One of the things during those moments is this emotional maturity, that you're able to control yourself and not to act based on sudden energy shifts or sudden emotional shifts that are happening in you. Just to really distance yourself, but do it respectfully and know that you have a person on the other side of this connection. If you know about your tendencies to withdraw, work on them, because they can be very hurtful. At the same time, if you know that you have attachment issues and you have, for instance, some anxious attachments toward your partner, work on that so it can be getting more and more healthy. There's tons of materials out there, and I'm not a big fan of kitchen psychology that we try to analyze and diagnose ourselves all the time, probably. It's best to really sit with yourself and try to find the truth. And know that you're choosing yourself, you're choosing the self-improvement for the sake of the connection, but also for the sake of yourself, your partner, everyone involved. But don't try to make it out of desperation to save the relationship. Always act from this place of self-evolution and knowing that you're doing it for the highest good. So as you see, if we have both people who are mature and ready to talk about their needs and their boundaries, it's gonna be more easy for both of them to navigate those complex situations. Talking about communication, I also wanted to distinguish between this physical, pure, natural 3D communication that we have versus non-physical communications. Because I know that during separation stage, we are getting help through non-physical communication, non-verbal communication, meaning telepathy, some visions, some messages. Still, it's ongoing. The only thing is, in my experience, since we are talking about bringing those connections into 3D, and again, I'm not telling anyone what to believe in, I'm just saying, manifesting the soul connections on a 3D would require at some point following through with a 3D communication. Meaning that you may get all the telepathies, especially during those hard periods, but you will get the best confirmation if your counterpart will be ready to continue this physical, verbal communication on a 3D. If this part is lacking, you will sense the disbalance, and at some point you will feel like you're depleting yourself, that you're over giving something in this connection. There is no balance, and of course you're gonna feel it. The partner was gonna feel it, but most importantly, you're gonna feel it, that something is off. So if you're finding yourself maybe on the fence, that you try to fight for the connection, maybe you're this more anxious attachment style, that you're desperately trying to make it work, take a step back. Take a step back to take your power back. Don't fall into those old patterns, maybe from the previous connections, that you were holding onto this control. You wanted to make it work so hard and you were afraid to let go. Withdraw this power and really focus on you, and try to find a way to self-soothe yourself during these periods, knowing that you're still working on yourself. You're still trying to navigate those energy, especially on an energetic level, emotional level. Those experiences and moments are very difficult, but you can get through them. You need to find a way to regulate your nervous system during those moments, because at the same time, it's very likely you're getting a lot of upgrades. So the self-soothing skill is very powerful, especially that we need to find a way to make space for our own selves. This integration will need to happen when you give yourself time. Take time offline, like really try to do something that you don't normally do, and try to engage in activities that don't require you to be online and to put more pressure into your system. At the same time, if you have avoidant tendencies, try to keep the connection with your emotional field, to not completely shut down this inner communication, because sometimes it can be hard to bounce back. And this changes in how we are approaching connections and communication can be gradually improved. So you see, it doesn't really matter in which camp you are. You will find yourself that there are certain things that you can work on to make the whole journey easier for you, for your counterpart, and for the connection in general. So maybe just to summarize, because for many, soul connections can sound like pretty much upgraded version of a healthy, mature relationship, and that's the way I see them. And of course, there are certain types of connections in which it's not brought to the 3D, but I think that as long as you put it into your consciousness and you're ready to embrace this part of experience in 3D on all levels, trying to work towards balancing all those fields and really manifest these connections in our 3D reality, you can. But you need to understand that this is a template of normal, standard, healthy, mature relationship. So you're dealing with another person who has different tendencies. They have their ego, they have their personalities, they have their needs. And you are navigating a connection with them in the most respectful way and the most mature way. And soul connection means that we have just this energetic overlay on top of that. This is the additional layer that we are given because we can tap in higher than that. But it doesn't mean that we can just treat those separately. You'll really feel how we are setting some proper example for people to look towards, even for the ones that they don't want to be engaged that much within energetic world and within spirituality. It's worth templating for other people. So always think about yourself as an example for others. Maybe examples you haven't seen in your family background, things that you haven't seen properly, you are not taught, and also things that you really don't want to repeat over and over. So I think this gives us additional motivation to work on ourselves for the sake of us, our relationship, but also for other people who are getting to know yourself, because we're gonna be, of course, working with other people, and if we can show them the example how true connection and relationships should flourish, I think it's very precious. So I hope it helps a little bit to understand the importance of self-communication and outward communication in the relationship, in the soul connection. Let me know if you have any comments, and see you again in another video. Take care.